For years, The View thrived on its unfiltered, no-holds-barred approach to daytime television. The show became a cultural phenomenon, known for its bold debates, sharp critiques, and fearless tackling of the most controversial topics of the day. It was a platform where opinions were aired without apology, and the hosts, particularly Whoopi Goldberg, became synonymous with unapologetic candor. The show's fiery clashes and unfiltered commentary drew millions of viewers, making it a staple of daytime TV and a dominant force in the media landscape. However, the very elements that had once propelled The View to the top of the ratings, its willingness to stir controversy and push boundaries, began to backfire in spectacular fashion. What had once been a source of strength became its Achilles heel, as the show found itself buried under an avalanche of over 30 defamation lawsuits. The stage that had been a battleground for heated discussions and sharp critiques was now crumbling under the weight of legal chaos, financial struggles, and an overwhelming wave of public backlash. Once an untouchable empire in the world of daytime television, The View was now teetering on the edge of total collapse. At the center of this storm was Whoopi Goldberg, a legendary figure in the entertainment industry. Known for her unshakable confidence, razor-sharp wit, and fearless commentary, Goldberg had built a career on speaking her mind, no matter the consequences. She was a trailblazer, an Academy Award-winning actress, a groundbreaking comedian, and a daytime television powerhouse. For years, she thrived on controversy, wearing it like a badge of honor. Whether she was taking on Hollywood elites, political figures, or tech moguls, Goldberg never held back. Her reputation as a fearless truth-teller made her a beloved figure to many, but it also made her a target. She believed her decades in the spotlight, her credibility, and her status as a cultural icon made her untouchable. She had faced backlash before and always emerged unscathed. But this time, the storm brewing beneath the surface was unlike anything she had ever encountered. At first, Goldberg's sharp takes and unfiltered opinions were met with applause and approval. Her willingness to challenge powerful figures and speak truth to power resonated with audiences. Even when her comments sparked outrage, it was often dismissed as part of the show's no-holds-barred style. But something shifted. Slowly, her signature boldness began to cross a dangerous line. What had once been strong opinions started to blur into legally explosive accusations. The dam eventually broke, and the backlash was not just loud, it was legally devastating. One lawsuit turned into two turned into 10, and before anyone could fully grasp what was happening, the floodgates had opened. The View was dragged into a relentless legal battle that threatened everything: the show's reputation, its financial future, and even Goldberg's untouchable status. The initial backlash was subtle, a murmur of skepticism here, a questioning voice there. Public figures began pushing back, wondering whether Goldberg's words were hard-hitting truths or reckless accusations. But those murmurs quickly turned into roars. The lawsuits came crashing down like an avalanche, one after another, piling up at an alarming rate. Behind the scenes, the network was in full-blown panic mode. Damage control teams scrambled to contain the chaos, but the usual PR tricks weren't enough this time. The backlash was too big, too loud, and growing by the second. There was no spinning this disaster. The legal firestorm had already scorched everything in its path. The fallout was brutal. Sponsors who had once lined up to support The View's bold, no-holds-barred style began to vanish one by one. Advertisers pulled the plug, terrified of having their brands associated with the show's growing legal troubles. The program that had once thrived on controversy now found itself drowning in it. But the worst blow came from the viewers themselves. Ratings, once fueled by the show's unpredictable and explosive debates, began to nosedive. Audiences were split down the middle. Some rallied behind Goldberg, praising her as a fearless truth-teller unafraid to challenge the powerful. Others, however, saw a different story. To them, Goldberg had crossed a dangerous line, using her platform to throw out accusations without accountability. The divide was deep, and it only widened with every new headline, every lawsuit, and every lost sponsor. What had once been a ratings juggernaut and a cultural force was now crumbling at a speed no one could have predicted. The fiery debates that had made The View famous had finally turned against it, and there was no stopping the collapse. A television empire built on bold opinions and unfiltered commentary was unraveling at breathtaking speed. Once a dominant force in daytime TV, The View had gone from a cultural mainstay to a full-blown liability, facing an avalanche of backlash, legal battles, and financial devastation. With lawsuits piling up and advertisers fleeing, the network faced an impossible decision: stand by its most iconic host or salvage what little remained of the brand. But with the show's reputation in tatters and financial losses skyrocketing, the writing was on the wall. The era of The View, as audiences once knew it, was coming to an explosive and dramatic end. At the heart of it all was Whoopi Goldberg, a powerhouse of opinion and a veteran in the industry. Her sharp tongue had carved through Hollywood, politics, and tech moguls alike. But the one name that consistently found itself in her crosshairs was Elon Musk. Goldberg never held back when it came to the billionaire entrepreneur. On air, she eviscerated him, branding him as selfish, arrogant, and completely out of touch with the struggles of everyday people. Whether it was his social media antics, his business decisions, or his controversial influence, Goldberg made it clear she had no love for Musk, and she wasn't afraid to say it. But in a world where defamation lawsuits can destroy even the most untouchable names, Goldberg was quickly learning that being outspoken came with a price. Then there was the Trump family. If there was one topic that could guarantee fireworks on The View, it was them. For years, Goldberg had turned the Trumps into a recurring target, never mentioning their name without a scathing remark to follow. Whether it was Donald Trump himself, his children, or his closest advisors, Goldberg painted them as key players in a world of shady backroom deals and shadowy political maneuvering. She boldly accused them of fueling conspiracy theories and manipulating democracy from the inside. Her words, once a staple of daytime television, had now become a legal minefield. As the courtroom battles intensified, the world was left wondering, was this the end of The View, or just the beginning of an even bigger media firestorm? Goldberg didn't stop there. In a move that left audiences stunned, she turned her attention to an unlikely target, Carrie Underwood. The country music star, known for her powerhouse vocals and pristine reputation, suddenly found herself caught in Goldberg's whirlwind of accusations. Goldberg insinuated that Underwood wasn't just a talented performer but a behind-the-scenes manipulator, subtly influencing media narratives for a greater agenda. The claim was so bizarre, so out of left field, that even Goldberg's most devoted fans were left scratching their heads. Then came Joe Rogan, a polarizing figure in modern media. His wildly popular podcast had earned him millions of devoted listeners, but to Goldberg, he was a dangerous force. She ripped into him, branding his show as reckless and irresponsible, accusing him of spreading misinformation under the guise of free speech. She painted the Joe Rogan Experience as a breeding ground for deception, a space where unchecked narratives ran wild with no accountability. For years, it seemed like Goldberg could do no wrong. She had built a legacy as a fearless truth-teller, a Hollywood veteran who never played by the rules. But now, that same fearless approach was turning into her biggest liability. Goldberg's fearless approach had kept her in the spotlight for decades. To her, controversy wasn't a risk, it was a strategy, a weapon that ensured she stayed relevant in a media world that thrived on drama. She likely believed her celebrity status was an invisible shield, one that protected her from the kind of backlash that could destroy an ordinary person. In today's world, a single tweet from an unknown figure could spark outrage and end careers. But Goldberg? She was untouchable, or so she thought. Sitting at the center of one of the most-watched talk shows on television, backed by a network that had stood by her through every firestorm, she wielded power and influence with unwavering confidence. She believed she could say whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted, without fear of consequences. But the landscape was shifting. The industry was evolving, and the immunity she had relied on for years was starting to fade. Her critics weren't just complaining anymore, they were taking action. Lawsuits stacked up, networks grew uneasy, and advertisers began distancing themselves. The signs of trouble were flashing in bright red, but whether Goldberg saw them or simply refused to acknowledge them was another matter. In the end, she made one critical mistake. She underestimated the power, influence, and sheer resources of the people she was calling out. Goldberg had built her entire career on speaking her mind, tossing out accusations without hesitation, and rarely looking back at the fallout. But this time, it wasn't just about sparking controversy for ratings. It was something far riskier. She wasn't just exaggerating for dramatic effect. She was throwing out claims that had zero verification. Her words weren't just bold. They were reckless. And in an era where fact-checking happens in real time and legal action is just a lawsuit away, that kind of gamble was no longer one she could afford. For years, Goldberg believed her fame was a shield, protecting her from the kind of consequences that crushed lesser-known figures. She spoke with the confidence of someone untouchable, trusting that her legacy, powerful industry connections, and fiercely loyal audience would keep her safe. But reality hit harder than she ever expected. The moment those legal floodgates opened, that illusion shattered. Over 30 defamation lawsuits came crashing down, each one a brutal reminder that words carry weight. And this time, the cost was steep. The people Goldberg had targeted weren't just celebrities nursing bruised egos. They were high-profile figures with endless financial resources, elite legal teams, and the determination to fight until the very end. At the top of that list was Elon Musk, a billionaire who never backed down from a public battle, and someone more than willing to take this all the way. Goldberg had taken countless swings at Musk, branding him an out-of-touch billionaire whose ventures were nothing more than glorified vanity projects. She accused him of arrogance, selfishness, and even hinted at sinister motives lurking behind his technological empire. In the fast-paced world of television, comments like these might have been dismissed as entertainment. But Musk saw it differently, and he wasn't the only one. Carrie Underwood, unexpectedly dragged into Goldberg's conspiracy-laden rhetoric, wasn't about to let baseless accusations put her reputation on the line. Joe Rogan, a man well-versed in controversy, wasn't one to sit quietly while his platform was painted as reckless and dangerous. And then came the Trump family, arguably one of the most legally relentless dynasties in modern media. Goldberg had taken repeated shots at them, weaving narratives that could be shredded apart in a courtroom. It was only a matter of time before they decided to strike back. The lawsuits poured in, one after another, and in an instant, the power dynamic flipped. Goldberg was no longer just a brash TV host making bold statements. She was now the defendant in a legal war with some of the most powerful figures in the world. The network, once her unwavering shield, suddenly had to ask itself a painful question: was standing by Whoopi Goldberg worth the price? Advertisers wasted no time distancing themselves, pulling out as the controversy spiraled further out of control. Even some of Goldberg's most loyal supporters began questioning whether she had finally gone too far. What had once felt like an unstoppable reign of media dominance was now slipping from her grasp, spinning into chaos. There was a difference between stirring debate and making accusations that could hold up under legal scrutiny. And with some of the most powerful figures in the world ready to push back, Goldberg suddenly found herself in unfamiliar territory, on the defensive, facing the very consequences she once believed she was immune to. Elon Musk wasn't about to let his name be dragged through the mud without a fight. A billionaire tech mogul who had built and reshaped entire industries, he had spent years demolishing critics, outmaneuvering competitors, and proving himself as an unstoppable force. But Goldberg's relentless attacks, accusing him of arrogance, selfishness, and even suggesting he harbored hidden darker motives, pushed him to his limit. Enough was enough. Musk wasn't one for petty Twitter feuds. He went straight for the jugular. Instead of firing back with words, he unleashed a legal firestorm. A blitz so fast and relentless that Goldberg barely had time to process what was happening before she was fully entrenched in a courtroom war. His elite legal team, backed by resources only a multi-billionaire could command, dismantled her claims piece by piece, turning her own words into evidence against her. But this wasn't just about reputation anymore. For Musk, this was war, and he intended to make sure Goldberg felt every brutal hit before she could even catch her breath. Another powerhouse entered the ring, the Trump family. Known for their ruthless legal tactics and refusal to back down, they were next to strike. And if there was one group in the world that played hardball better than anyone, it was them. For years, Goldberg had painted the Trump family as masterminds of corruption, weaving conspiracy theories and hinting at criminal activity. But she never expected them to go for total destruction. Donald Trump, a man who never backs down, had seen enough. He didn't just want Goldberg silenced, he wanted her to pay. With a legal team as fierce as Musk's, the Trumps hit her with a bombshell defamation lawsuit, a move designed to prove she wasn't untouchable. She had stepped into a war with giants, and now they were closing in. No network, no PR spin, no fan base could shield her from what was coming. But then came the real shock, Carrie Underwood. Of all the people Goldberg had called out, she was the least expected to fight back. A country music icon with a spotless image, Underwood wasn't political, she wasn't a billionaire. Yet when Goldberg accused her of manipulating the music industry from behind the scenes, Underwood did the unthinkable. She struck back. In a jaw-dropping move, her legal team filed a lawsuit against Goldberg, calling her claims outrageous, slanderous, and damaging to an artist who had built her career on pure talent. For Goldberg, this was a brutal reality check. She had spent years wielding her words like weapons, believing she could say anything without consequences. But now, the walls were closing in. The lawsuit stacked higher, and the very platform she once used to tear others down was now crushing her. No apology, no PR spin could undo the damage. Her voice, once her greatest power, had become her downfall. Underwood had spent years crafting an untouchable reputation, built on talent, hard work, and integrity. She stayed out of Hollywood drama, letting her music speak for itself. But when Goldberg accused her of manipulating the industry from behind the scenes, Underwood refused to let her name be dragged through the mud. This wasn't just about public perception. It was about her career, her legacy, her future. Even baseless accusations could plant doubt, casting a shadow over her success, and she wasn't about to let that happen. So she hit back hard, filing a lawsuit demanding millions in damages. This wasn't just legal action, it was a statement. Carrie Underwood made it crystal clear. No one, no matter how famous, would smear her name without consequences. But while her lawsuit sent shockwaves through Hollywood, it was nothing compared to the firestorm that erupted when Goldberg went head-to-head with Joe Rogan. The View was already in freefall, but this clash took things to another level. What began as a seemingly minor dispute over a Staten Island bakery exploded into a nationwide scandal, exposing Goldberg's habit of making reckless accusations without checking the facts. Goldberg publicly accused the family-owned bakery of discrimination, claiming they refused her order because of her political beliefs. She framed it as a blatant act of intolerance, using her platform to call out what she saw as political bias. Her words carried weight, and the backlash was swift and brutal. The bakery was immediately bombarded with outrage, their reputation dragged through the mud. The problem? It wasn't true. The bakery, a beloved staple in the community for generations, quickly fought back. There was no discrimination, no agenda, no political bias. The truth? A simple boiler malfunction had forced them to temporarily stop taking large orders. Nothing more, nothing less. But by the time the facts surfaced, the damage had already been done. Goldberg's accusation had unleashed a firestorm. Social media mobs descended, demanding boycotts, hurling accusations, and tearing apart a business that had spent decades building its reputation. All of it hung by a thread because of a single unverified claim broadcast to millions. And then Joe Rogan stepped in. Never one to back down from a fight, Rogan took aim at Goldberg's recklessness. He dedicated an entire segment of his podcast to exposing the truth, dismantling her claims piece by piece. He didn't hold back, calling out her behavior as yet another blatant example of mainstream media figures abusing their influence without consequence. But this wasn't just about defending a bakery. Rogan was making a bigger statement. He highlighted how celebrities like Goldberg had long been able to shape narratives, push misleading claims, and escape accountability. Not this time. The tide had turned. Goldberg wasn't just dealing with public backlash. She was now entangled in legal battles, losing industry support, and facing powerful figures calling her out like never before. What started as a simple TV controversy had morphed into something far more dangerous, something that threatened to bring down her entire career. The situation spiraled out of control as the bakery, a 150-year-old family business, refused to let Goldberg's accusations go unchallenged. At a high-stakes press conference, the owner stood firm. "This is not what happened. We have never discriminated, and we won't let false claims destroy what we've built." The damage was severe, but they weren't just defending their reputation. They were fighting for survival. Then Joe Rogan jumped in, calling it a blatant lie. He exposed Goldberg's claims as yet another example of reckless media power. He used his massive platform to tear apart her accusations, branding them baseless gossip with real-world consequences. And he didn't stop there. His legal team moved fast, filing a defamation lawsuit against Goldberg. The charges were serious. Rogan's team argued that Goldberg's reckless accusations hadn't just damaged the bakery. They were part of a larger pattern that,